Close enough. Start record. Does that say it's recording?
You will know from that when it says stop record.
That's what it says.
Okay.
All right, and this
I
is
don't-
all set.
Do I have to worry about?
No, you should. I think you're all set.
Okay.
I think you're all set.
Alrighty. Welcome, people, to the Harwich Housing Committee meeting of April 12th, 2023. Present are committee members Claudia,
That's fine.
Just do a roll call.
Claudia Williams. Yes, do roll call, please.
Claudia Williams,
Mary
thank you.
Maslowski.
Elizabeth Harder.
Art Bowden.
Thank you. I was gonna say Williams and then I panicked. I'm having a hard day. So, the first order of business is accepting the minutes from March 16th meeting. Thank you very much, Claudia, for doing this.
So I move that we accept the meeting minutes and place them on file.
I'll second it.
Any discussion, any problems? All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
All right. Coordination and communications with the Affordable Housing Trust. There's nobody here from it. And they, at the CPC meeting, were very clear about that they're still working on things, trying to figure out what, if they have a consultant, what it's going to do. They also have to get new members because Larry's off in May and poor Larry Brophy died.
Right.
So I think for a while we can just let them be and let them come to us if they would like to work with us, either to help them with something or to publicize something, do that.
About taking up, I forgot his name, but the one who usually comes, he said he would do like a temporary, be on both as a way to sort of liaison.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he could,
Yes.
but he's really, right now, the only one on the Affordable Housing Trust. So I think he's probably busy. I think really there's nothing we can do for them right now.
For now,
They made
okay.
it very clear they're their own fiduciary entity, and so I think we'll leave them be for now.
Okay.
Let them figure out what they want from us.
Well, I think too, once they finish with their consultants, hopefully we'll have a better idea of what they're doing. So.
Right. And that leads us to the discussion of updates to the committee charge, because one of the things that I think we should highlight in our charge is that because the Affordable Housing Trust only does up to 80% AMI, then our focus, we'll help them with whatever they request of us, but then our focus maybe should be, while still looking for capital A affordable, we should also be looking for, the moderate housing, the workforce housing, and a diverse housing stock, and sort of maybe concentrate for now our efforts on that.
So I have some thoughts on that as well. I just wonder if you folks wouldn't mind. I know Paul's online, and maybe we could have him talk about the ADU bylaw, and then we could let him go.
Very good idea. Let's skip ahead to 4, ADU zoning bylaw, which Paul was kind enough to print out for us and leave here for us. Thank you, Paul. So tell us what you know and what you want us to know.
Good evening. The bylaw amendment has not really changed very much from what you reviewed about a month ago. The bylaw amendment was reviewed by council, and she raised some concerns about language that I had inserted saying that if the accessory apartment is in proximity to the sewer line, that they would be required to connect the existing house and the accessory apartment to the sewer. That raised a red flag where zoning was maybe having a jurisdictional overlap with the Board of Health. And I think there may also be a problem with compliance with the Board of Health's rules and regulations related to the municipal sewer system. So to be safe, we deleted that out. Other than that, the bylaw amendment had no other changes. The planning board had a continued public hearing on March 28th. We had a number of people attend the hearing, and I think 8 or 9 people spoke in support of the bylaw amendment. Nobody spoke in opposition to it. At the end of that hearing, the planning board closed the hearing, and they unanimously voted to support it. Yesterday, we learned that we had a posting problem with the meeting on March 28th. So in an effort to resolve any concerns that the Attorney General's office might raise with the bylaw amendment and the vote taken by the planning board to support it, we, on advice of counsel, are going to hold another public hearing. I'll call it like a confirmatory hearing prior to town meeting on May 1st at 4:30. Since, you know, we went through 2 or 3 continued public hearings, and now the board's going to hopefully make a confirmatory vote on May 1st, I'd like to think that, you know, we had strong support. I think the Board of Selectmen voted to support it, and I would like to ask the Housing Committee if you would entertain a motion to vote to support the bylaw amendment, so that when I present it at town meeting, I'll be able to explain to the voters that it has broad support from the Housing Committee and the Selectmen and the Planning Board.
Great.
Just, Paul, if I could.
Please, go.
I just want to point out kind of so that everybody understands where it's coming from. It is an accessory dwelling unit. It remains that one of the 2 units has to be owner occupied. I think we kept in the 6-month or longer lease requirement, correct, Paul?
Yes.
And we have, so it's as a matter of right with no minimum lot area requirements. And then if there is a non-conformance, there is an ability for somebody to go to the zoning board of appeals. So, just so that everybody understands, that's kind of where it's coming from. It's very similar to the last. It's primarily that the lot size areas requirements have gone away. That the size, I think, increased from 900 square feet to 1,000 square feet. It can be enforced by the building commissioner for zoning violations if it's not done properly with a 6-month or greater lease and a owner occupant in the other unit. So hopefully that gives a little bit of a synopsis with where it stands.
If anybody else is watching us at some point.
Exactly.
No, I think it's really good, and I noticed that the took out the part about whether it's in a water resource overlay district, but I assume that is somehow covered. I mean, actually, I shouldn't assume anything. With that part being crossed out, is there a way to make sure people aren't building in protected areas that may be on their property?
The Six Ponds District has its own section of the zoning bylaw, and the minimum lot size requirement of either 60,000 or 100,000 square feet would need to be met to allow for an accessory apartment. So there were no changes made to the restrictions in the Six Pond District. Regarding the Drinking Water Protection District, I didn't make any changes that I'm aware of that would have affected that. We did remove the minimum lot size requirements, but didn't touch any, you know, I will need to review that section of the bylaw to be able to answer any questions that might come up at town meeting. But I didn't make any changes that I thought would have affected that.
Okay. Because that's all everybody's worried about, really, is just that people aren't going to be able to build wherever they want to and kill turtles and poison water.
Well, they're still subject to all the other zoning.
Right,
You
exactly.
know, they've got to go to conservation if they have wetlands, they've got to go to, everything else. It's not like carte blanche. It's
Exactly.
literally just that they can get a building permit, they don't need a special permit.
Right. So how do we feel? Would we like to take a vote on endorsing this?
Why don't we make a motion?
Have we finished our comments?
Do you have comments,
Would you go
sir?
around the table and ask me if I did?
Do you have comments?
Yes, I do.
All right, Art.
Well, I want to start off to say that I'm in favor of the ADUs and I'm in favor of the relaxing the requirements and so on and so forth. But I just have to make a comment here and you know, I'm still going to be in favor at the end of the night. But the comment is at the end here, we're giving away, that's the wrong term. We're relaxing the requirements, and then the last day of the year, we instead of having a hammer in our hand, we got a sledgehammer in our hand, stating that if you step outside these rules, we're gonna come down on you pretty heavy.
But Art,
You know, once again, if I was a homeowner and I got my garage all set to turn into an ADU, and then I'm thinking, no, I don't want to stick my head out there that far, and if I slip up, maybe I, you know, the requirement, I gotta be living in my principal residence for 365 days of the year. Maybe there's something that's gonna happen that I can't. Maybe I'm gonna go to the old farmer's home or something, and I'm removed from my home, and now but the ADU is still occupied, and then I trigger some sort of violation. And, you know, this last statement, to me, sounds a little on the heavy side.
Okay.
Particularly when, you know, if someone goes and builds the ADU and it gets inspected and they get approval, so on and so forth, and then somewhere out in the future, something happens and now they're in violation.
Oh,
They gotta make everything whole again, they gotta tear it down, they gotta
No.
move everything?
No, I think Mary's got
that's
it.
standard zoning enforcement language, so under state statute, cities and towns, our bylaws and ordinances are criminal. A violation of a bylaw or an ordinance is criminal.
Okay.
Most of us have have gone through the 4021D process to make them non-criminal, so that tickets can be issued for violations. That includes zoning violations. That language is the standard zoning violation, which allows the zoning enforcement officer, who is our inspector of buildings, commissioner of buildings, to be able to issue a ticket, and each and every day constitutes a separate violation. That's the standard state law. It's the standard enforcement provision.
Yeah,
So
but-
it's nothing out of the
I
ordinary.
appreciate
Yeah,
what you said, and that's fine, but if I just picked up this piece of paper, and I'm just, you know, I'm just the average citizen here in town, I don't know that. If I read this, I'm glad for you.
Yeah.
There's enforcement through the town, and there's enforcement under the state building code, and I think this is capturing both.
Right.
The ability to do both.
And
that's pretty
anything-
standard.
So
Any
would the
person
applicant-
is gonna
would the
have,
applicant now know that this is just standard stuff, and we just put that in there because it's standard and so on and so forth?
Well, they should, and you should also always go about trying to follow
Right.
the law, right? So,
Well, of course.
I'm
So-
sure it'll be made clear, you know,
I'd
you
be the
have
last-
to.
I'd be the last guy in Harwich to break the law.
You have to go through the permit process and all that, so I assume going through that process will make it clear what you have to do. I also assume that, like you said, let's say somebody gets ill and is going to be in a rehab facility for long-term. I'm sure there's a way to call whoever is in charge, building inspector, and say, problem with, this, just like, other zoning problems get worked out one-on-one by,
Well, it comes
But
under the
people-
heading, if you don't ask the question, you don't know.
absolutely.
Okay, I'm happy.
Good.
Yeah,
Claudia,
I'm good. I'm ready for a motion if we're ready for it.
all right,
Madam Chairman, could I please respond to that?
sure.
So that section is a rewrite, and I rewrote it and inserted the language about the affidavit. But I want to explain that the section that's in existence right now has a similar warning. And let me just read what the current bylaw says. A determination that the owner has failed to comply with the foregoing criteria shall be evidence that the rights and benefits conferred hereunder are null and void, and the elements that make the accessory apartment a separate dwelling unit shall be removed from the property within 90 days of said determination, with the owner to comply with all requirements of the state building code and zoning in removing the elements determined to be unpermitted. So I just, what we have there is kind of a rewrite of what was already there, and I just wanted to explain that it already had a fairly strongly worded warning enforcement section. So I rewrote that and I added in that the language about the affidavit.
Now, just while we're on the topic of this, there are people who have already built mother-in-law apartments, right? Are those going to be able to be considered, are those going to be like checked out now, or can people just keep them the way they are? Or are they going to have to now have those meet ADU requirements in this bylaw?
As the way that zoning works is whatever is in place at the time the zoning amendment is adopted is effectively grandfathered. So this will have no impact on anybody that has an existing accessory dwelling unit.
Great, thank you. And I assume if the things we were talking about with Art, if something horrible comes up, they'll be able to go to you or the applicable authority to discuss the problems of meeting the criteria for the moment? Will there be an appeal process or something for them?
The building commissioner is the zoning enforcement officer, and any decisions made by the building commissioner can be appealed to the zoning board of appeals.
Great. All right. So
Okay.
is everybody okay now? All right. You want to make a motion, Mary?
So I make a motion that the housing committee vote to support the zoning bylaw amendment proposed for the accessory dwelling unit.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, Mr. Paul, so you have our approval. Do with it what you wish.
Thank you, I appreciate your support.
Okay.
Thank you so much,
Good night.
Paul, for doing that.
Thank you for the printouts and for taking care of everything. Unless you're really interested, you are free to leave.
All right, thanks, I'll probably keep you on in the background. Thank you,
Okay.
have a good evening.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank
Good night.
you.
So are we gonna automatically generate a letter stating that we voted in affirmative?
We can, but he's gotta give a report to town meeting as part of any zoning bylaw
Right.
change. So he can just report to town meeting that
Right.
he was at our meeting. and-
Because it'll be in our minutes that we unanimously approved support of the zoning bylaw. I think that's good enough. And should anyone come to us before town meeting saying, ooh, could you write a letter to be handed out that day? We'll do it. But, all right, so now should we go back to number 3, updates to committee charge? Claudia, shall we start with you since you sent out this very nicely detailed?
Sure. I literally just kind of threw a bunch of things together and looked at different things, so it was a big fat stab in the dark. So,
Nope.
and I just picked things that seemed good, right? So, but maybe a good jumping off point, if that works.
Let me call it up, because
Oh, yeah, I brought some copies if it's easier. I feel like for me, I can edit better on paper, yeah.
I have one. Art, do you need
Art, do you
a
need one?
copy of Claudia's?
What do we got? We got-
That's Claudia's.
Mary Anderson emailed me that she was super sick tonight and couldn't come, so she gave me a bunch of, things that she had put together. One of the things she did too was ask if we should add, as part of our objectives or charge or whatever, as we have like work with, the Housing Trust and Housing Authority, that we do something with Brianna, like, assist the housing advocate and
Right.
something,
I
so.
have that
Okay.
in mind.
I didn't add it yet, but I just had it in my notes. Okay.
What do you think is, out of your draft, what did you think was the most important things that you wanted to stress?
Yeah, I think really, it was trying to, the mission was just sort of like, encapsulating what we'd want to do. In general, I think the ideas, are we going to do actual development, planning, outreach, definitely, education, definitely, advocacy, definitely, in my mind, definitely. But I think the things in question are we, if we're assisting the town to encourage, create, and preserve adequate supply of quality, affordable year-round homes, are we doing things like, under the charge, quantify the housing need, develop and advocate for town policy and bylaws to expand affordable housing opportunities, raise community consciousness, engagement, support, and support the efforts of the Housing Trust and Harwich Housing Authority. I guess another bullet, and a big bullet in there, would be to, look into and propose, affordable housing options to whoever.
So I guess that's where I see our charge as being a little bit different.
Yeah,
I think the Housing Trust really,
is that, like, they get it.
and the Housing Authority, they both have money
Okay,
to deal with
perfect.
things, where we don't.
Okay.
I guess I see our role as more of supporting those
Okay.
and supporting housing efforts. I didn't do anything as detailed as you did. I did a quick little paragraph to kind of track what the existing one was, and kind of tweaked it a little bit.
So from this, what would be, so it would be this, but we wouldn't do anything around, obviously getting.
So to me, it would be, I think we would assist the community trust fund, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, with community engagement and education on matters before them, which I think makes sense. I think that's how a lot of other
Yeah,
housing committees have worked.
Right.
And then I added, the committee shall further work with and provide insight to the Harwich Housing Authority on its programs and housing matters, because they're a whole
Right.
different entity in a whole different world.
Okay.
With federal housing and different monies.
okay,
And then I guess my follow-up to that was, the committee shall provide thoughtful review and guidance to other boards and commissions on, relative to matters on all types of community housing, including affordable year-round workforce housing, housing for seasonal workers.
okay.
Right.
So I'm gonna take out year-round, just
Yeah,
like affordable housing
Because
instead
I
of
think it's-
See,
home.
what I did in working off, because I just scrawled my own notes, and
Yeah.
then when I got here, I tried to put mine onto yours.
Okay,
Because I would say the Harwich Housing Committee will assist the town to encourage, create, and preserve an adequate supply of quality, capital A affordable, moderate, workforce, and diverse housing.
That works.
okay,
Because not only do we want, Affordable Housing Trust and Housing Authority, they're up to 80%.
I'm gonna grab my computer and
So-
we can just I can throw it all together and then we could look at it again.
Great. Because we've got two entities covering up to 80%.
You've got two entities covering the 80%. That's what they've got to do.
So, and they can't do anything but. So I feel like while we should, of course, support them in any needs they might have, in education, outreach, whatever, that our focus to helping the town would really be to identify other ways of helping the town's housing stock.
Well, I guess that's where I was coming from on the where I said reviewing guidance to other boards and commissions relative to matters of all types of community housing.
Right.
And that we'd review any housing matters and provide recommendations to the Board of Selectmen and other boards and commissions.
Right.
When requested.
Yeah,
Because I don't think we're gonna be out there coming up with the housing ideas. That's just not really,
Yeah, okay.
I don't think it's practical for us because we don't have money to do it.
Well,
Yeah.
well,
but I do think that
that's where we,
yeah,
disagree.
I disagree with that because I think, for example, I've got a huge page right now and I sent out a couple of things about options to look at for Harwich that might help it, looking at what other towns are doing, looking at organizations that maybe we should investigate, working with them. There's CDP, there's HEC, there's the church homes that do Pine Oaks, I forget the name of that committee. And if we do investigation on that, and if we come across, hey, this would be a great idea for Harwich, we can discuss it, figure out a way, and to maybe present to people and say, look at this idea. We've got Vale, and for example, look at Provincetown. We've got Vale and Deed is going to the state, and they've got a what do they call it? The other trust, which I don't think we'd want to do a trust, but we could discuss it, which is about market rate housing, helping people, get market rate
Well, but
housing, because here it is, a year-round market rate rental housing trust, because we need year-round housing that's not just 80%.
So I think we can support that without creating another trust. I think really ultimately the developers ultimately are the ones that are going to have to find the land, find the location. We can make, real estate and open spaces reviewing a parcel of land. We certainly could look at it and make recommendations whether we think it should be looked at for housing of any kind. But ultimately, I know I don't have the time, nor do I think we all have the full expertise to be the ones to tell a developer what to develop. They're in the business of doing it, including a CDP, including a hack and a hash. They look at things and if there's a viable parcel of land that somebody proposes to develop, they're gonna be able to do it, and they're gonna be able to respond in that circumstance. If you look at how the Yarmouth Housing Trust worked with their developments on Route 28, what they did as the housing trust, they put out an RFP and said, hey, we have money, and what we'd like to put our money towards is supporting hotel motel conversions to affordable housing. So they went
Our
out to.
trust can't do that, first of all.
Well, they can, because they're set up as
The way it's
a,
written.
they can, as long as it's supporting 80% housing, they can. So the way Yarmouth did it, they had to go out for an RFP on a couple of occasions until the right developer came along with the right parcel. The developer was responsible for buying the old Cavalier Motel property and made a proposal back to the trust and said, hey, I can do this for $30,000 a unit and I can make it affordable. So those are the kinds of things that can happen, and I look at that and I say, that's a really smart way to go about it, because a developer has to get into the weeds on the parcel, whether that's a parcel that can be developed, whether they can do it in a budget that's going to make sense to make it affordable, where it could come in under, whether it's a capital A, whether it can come in under market rate or whatever. The developer's the one that knows that part of the business better than any of us do. And I think we can certainly look at those items, support those items, do public outreach, do education on why market rate might be needed, or why, why 80% is more needed, why it really should be year-round workforce housing. I think we can get involved in all of that, but I don't see us finding the parcel and enforcing their hands in that respect. We don't have the money we're not gonna go buy the parcel and offer it up.
No, but I
So-
disagree with your,
All right,
I mean, because we have to do
won't be
something.
the first time, won't be the last, I'm
I know.
sure.
The committee part of the problem with this committee is it's never done anything. It sits there and says, well, we've got a trust now. We really need to reach out to all these groups. We need to reach out to developers. We need to reach out to anybody we can think of and say, we've got some ideas. Do you have any ideas? Is there a way we can work together to make something happen? I mean, Cindy, our esteemed director of the Chamber of Commerce is here. Please come to a mic, identify yourself for the public, and
You can hear me on that mic or not. So I just have a question.
yes.
Where it is great that you're coming back together and into the forefront again. So there are a number of projects that are trying to be approved at different town committees right now. Isn't that something that you guys, as the Harwich Housing Committee, could then come to, say, a planning board meeting and get up and say, okay, this project is something that is needed. This XYZ developer knows how to do it, has the history of how to do it. We should all help support getting this done, because this now is going to help the year-round projects that we're needing.
So to
Right.
my point, I
Yeah,
guess
I
I'm
think that
saying,
makes
like,
sense.
the Royal came before historic.
Yes.
The Royal was before planning and had has their special permit through planning. That, to me, is a situation where this board could look into that and vote to support and make those
Well,
recommendations
and
to
you
the other
could
board. And
also
that's, I
be
guess,
in
that's
your-
where I'm coming
Right.
from in the bottom of my
When those
paragraph.
kind of
Yeah.
projects come up, those are the outreach of where y'all can be your little Norma Rays and the
Right.
male version of Norma
Exactly.
Ray to say, okay, this is a good project.
Right.
Or this is a project we need to maybe talk to the developer that, yeah, you really need 30 spots. I know you only want to do 22,
Right.
or whatever, But that's more of what I see you guys as, the little cheerleaders of trying to help the public understand what these unique situations and why they're needed. I
Right.
mean, there are some that are hopefully coming up that, unless you think outside of the box, there was a great project that got done, or that hopefully is still going through, the West Harwich Schoolhouse.
Right.
A young man
I love him.
is
I like
giving
his
back to
ideas,
his
I should
community, who is helping the demographic of his own peers. He has said publicly that he is first and foremost going to be reaching out to the schools, the medical, the police and fire, and saying, okay, do you have anyone that's going to need, that you've hired or are prospectively putting out an offer to, that's going to need an apartment? This is what I have, this is what it is. First and foremost, he's reaching out to that
Right.
group. So, okay, that's a good project. We're not talking about having it be downtown Hyannis or any other area.
Exactly.
This is someone who is giving his all, and there are more of those people that are out there that are looking to then bring back and revitalize and help the need that is so very important. That's what I see you guys being,
Well, and that's where I'm coming from, commenting on projects that are out there.
Yeah.
I think we can do a lot of good by reviewing and making recommendations, both, yes, to a developer if they're coming before us. I mean, this board stepped into it with the Chris Wise project, I believe, because we were asked to make a recommendation on something before plans were submitted. We also can't do that.
Right.
Because we had to rescind that vote, and rightfully so, we're asked to rescind a vote. And I questioned at the time that we did it, because there was nothing concrete before us. So, but I do think when there are concrete plans, that we can make comments, and we
we
can,
can
Right,
go,
and-
you can go to the ZBA meetings, the,
Exactly, and help,
Well,
and
Cindy,
those others, yes,
I want to break in here.
yes.
People on this committee do go to those board meetings.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
but to help them.
yes, because that's what's so important, because
Right.
having those extra voices, like the experts like yourselves.
To help them.
but there's also a big difference
the work-
between an individual member speaking at a meeting than
Right.
the
Right.
committee
Exactly.
taking
Yeah.
a vote and supporting
Yeah.
something as a committee.
That's where the rub comes in. Because if it's not on the agenda and we haven't taken a vote on it,
Right.
I can't get up in front of the microphone, and I go to if I see housing, I run towards the fire.
Oh, yeah.
But that's.
But that's the
All right,
point,
let
they
me
should be
interrupt.
on an
That's
agenda.
not what she's talking about. It will be to ensure that a project is on an agenda, and the word I have in my plans that I did not type up is navigate, is we help people navigate. And, we say, this sounds like a great project, I think this group could help you. Or the group says, any ideas if we wanted to do this project? There's a piece of land that I bet you would want to investigate. And help all the groups,
And now that we
anybody who
have
wants
such a wonderful advocate too with Brianna, that's a great partnering as well.
Exactly.
And,
Exactly.
you know,
I
the
mean, she's our
education is a huge
primary-
piece, and getting people to understand the different pieces of housing.
Right, because.
So Liz, would that kind of, in terms of like how we're thinking of wording it, and I know we need to hear from you, Art, but I'm just trying to, as each person, take notes so I can put something all together and then we can pick it apart again. But would that help, or would that do it for you to have help navigate project support? So resources, education, committees and boards, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. And,
So I can add that bullet.
connect, if necessary, correct the right people with the right people,
Be like a liaison between it.
Exactly, because I do think one of the prime, up at the top of our charge somewhere, should be understanding that while we have a housing coordinator, we should be assisting her and going through her guidance, sort of. I mean, not that she's in charge of us, but Brianna comes and says, listen, I've heard about this thing. Do you want to meet with them? We say, yes, we will meet with them.
Have her in up here somewhere.
And same, if
Yeah.
Paul
Taking any of
comes
that
up
stuff,
with
I know you've got it in
a
yours.
zoning thing.
Yeah, I'm just taking these bullets and putting them there.
Perfect.
But I'll
That we
put that one.
investigate the zoning plan that they're discussing, or, something that the planning board's discussing, and then we can investigate it and figure out, help people understand it and come together and say, because if we just sit and,
I'm gonna go back to my other seat.
no, you're fine there, you're fine there.
So that's what I'm going at with the penultimate sentence in my paragraph. Is, you're giving thoughtful review and guidance to boards and commissions, and maybe it's boards, commissions, and applicants.
Well, I just think it's,
And we have
to all interested parties. You know, don't limit it to anybody. If anybody comes to us, you know, if some high school kid comes up with an idea of, well, why don't they just do this?
Yeah, well, you
You
wouldn't
know,
send them away.
that's thought, you know, out of the box. You know, I think we should listen to anybody that has any ideas, because what's in the box right now isn't working. And there is no one answer that is gonna address housing. ADUs are great.
Yeah, it's not the final
The
solution.
trust is great. The authority is great. Nothing is gonna solve this on its own. It all needs to be different pieces. And the other thing that needs to be considered, but I couldn't figure out how to word it, is we've got to keep, I think it's our job to make sure that any housing discussion works with this is what I couldn't figure out how to phrase it, but housing and water are intrinsically linked. You can't have housing if it's gonna, you know, overflow the septics or, you know, blow up the sewer. You can't have it, you know, somewhere where it's gonna poison the bay or something, right?
But that's all part of the permitting
So-
process.
But
So
I
there are-
think we need to help people, that's part of the navigating.
But
is
see, those,
keeping an eye on the
that I
water.
think is us stepping on toes, because like Paul said, the town council was concerned with one of the provisions in the ADU bylaw about requiring that they tie into sewer, because
Right.
that is strictly the provision of the Board of Health.
Exactly, but so if we're working with somebody who wants to do something, we should be able to say to them, so the Board of Health is gonna want this, and the planning board is gonna want that, and the water department is gonna want this. I mean, I think that should be part of our job, is
So I
as
understand.
part of the navigating.
except I
you know.
understand. I have a little bit of a problem with it, because we have town paid professionals that are really the ones that should be providing that guidance, not us as a board or commission. I understand where you're coming from, and I'm not saying we turn people away, but we really need to rely on the professionals that the town pays to help them with that part of the process.
I'm not saying that we tell them what to do
Yeah.
about it. I'm saying we tell them who they need to go to learn about it.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. Is that, you know, if we keep a checklist of somebody brings us an idea and we go, that looks like it falls under the Board of Health and you need to go talk to them, you know, because we're going to be, my view of what we're all talking about is we're sort of going to help everyone navigate and get prepared before they start the process. So we're just sort of helping to point them in the right direction and stuff like that. And then, once they've committed and they feel comfortable with their planning things, then they can come to us and say, so this is what we decided on. Do you support this? If so, will you support us at the planning board meeting? You know, do it, you see what I mean? Not just going, you know, you and I, we show up at the, you know, opening of an envelope if it got the word housing in it. But on an official basis of someone going to support
I
that
just want
there.
to go back to one point. I'll probably keep going back to one. I think, you know, there's a lot of good stuff being thrown out here, and it's all good, and I wouldn't, you know, dismiss any of it, I don't think. I think William did a great job here, kind of putting a lot of this stuff together. And, but ideas. I think we should be, part of our function is coming up with ideas. And ideas don't cost any money. Need to be nothing. Because I always say, the ideas are already they've been discovered already. There's no new ideas out there in the free world, or on your, you know, on your computer or any place else. It's just finding where those ideas are and bringing them forward to fit our mission here. So we're all basically copycats. Someone is not necessarily smarter, but someone's already invented all the wheels that need to be invented. And I got one to talk about tonight if we have time. But anyways, so I think we should, one of our missions is to be the idea people. And just brainstorm them. And if it sounds like a reasonable idea, then we pass it on. And I strongly believe that the next person we pass it on in our, what we call it, the pecking order, chain of command, or whatever word, is to the housing advocate, our housing advocator. And let that office kind of, review it and give it some weight. If it has no weight, then say, okay, fine, well, the idea wasn't that good after all.
Right.
So, but if it's a good idea, then the advocate's office would, okay, now either pass it on to the Board of Selectmen or pass it on to the planning department or wherever, and let it rise to the surface.
Exactly. Or just keep it in our pocket in case someone comes to us and says, do you have any idea how we could pull this off? And say, yes, we studied that 2 months ago. Because that's what I was saying to Mary.
Now, that wouldn't be our only thing, but that
No,
should be.
but it's a part of
should be
it.
part
That's
of
what
the
I
whole
said
puzzle.
too. Is that
So we have, if we, again, I'm just putting it all together, right, so that we can see it all.
The other thing is,
Hold on, let me just summarize before you move on. So I have generate or further housing ideas to present at the appropriate town staff, board, or committee.
Right.
And then under like a 2023, 2024 charge, was like a project checklist. So in parentheses, if someone asks us for help with a project or an idea, we know who goes where,
Right.
what. Again, I see
Who to
that
send them to
as
for help.
advocacy, education, engagement. It's like, okay, people come forward and they're like, I have this great idea. I have this friend who owns this hotel. They're thinking of selling it. They don't know what to do. We would say, I wouldn't put it together.
Right.
But I would say, okay, here's this thing we have that we
Right.
created that says, this is how you would have to go about doing that. So start with this person, and then they're going to tell you where to go from there. Or come back to us if
Right.
you need more help
Right.
in knowing where to go for what, but we're going to keep steering them to people who actually
Yeah.
move these things
And-
through.
And also, to what Art and I are saying, is when they come and say, I have this really great idea, we can also tell them, yes, and Yarmouth did conversions, or Orleans bought the bank, or whatever, and we can also give them examples of
Yeah,
places where it
but
worked.
that's part of the
Yeah,
resources.
part of the resources, the other organizations that can help them
Yeah.
with that contract, that, RFP, whatever.
But I think that's
So-
still, to Mary's point, and I think to mine as well, just because I was trying to feel it out, is that it's still not like creating it. It's saying, if we have an idea versus somebody else on the street coming to us with an idea, we say, ooh, right? Like, ooh, I know that person, they could do that. So I come to you guys and I go, okay, what do we do with this? And then you help me and we create this thing that says, this is how it would look. This is how we steer people. This is how we keep things moving, because we're educating, we're advocating, we're engaging people, we're liaisoning, we're getting people together, we're working with other groups. If we have that and the bullets that we have here so far, right? If we leave off the actual getting and doing something with, other than steering, right, and liaisoning, we have a huge charge, right?
the other word in there, we should all be advocates of housing. There should
Absolutely.
be no one sitting here tonight not an
Right.
advocate of housing. If you're not, please keep it to yourself.
Yeah, and in terms of, creating, I think the closest we want to get to creating is creating a network of the people and organizations we think might be able to bring that project to fruition.
Right. I think that's part of, like, if we
Right.
do, like, on the, objectives or whatever, if we were to keep with these, right, then some of the potential, objectives were to create or build some sort of web-based presence that says, hey, you have a project and you don't know who to go to, well, go to the Affordable Housing Committee, whatever, Facebook page or website or whatever, and you'll see, this is for this is who you go to for this is who you go to for this is, you know, and if you have no idea where to start, go to this person, you
Right.
know, and that may be, like, to your point, that may be Brianna, or it may be Paul, but whatever, it's gonna be,
Right.
it's gonna have all that information, but none of that exists right now, you know, so, again, if we
Right, if
keep
we
it
create
to everything but, like, literally creating it.
Right, we're
then
not
we
hiring
got
contractors.
a lot.
Exactly.
on our
Yeah,
plate.
another
Yeah.
term that should get in there is this middle group.
Well, we have,
Missing
I have
middle,
a
yeah.
note to say that we need to, and I have like a bunch,
And the word I keep hearing is,
Right.
well, we
Yeah.
have, it's so many different
That's covered
words,
by
right?
moderate. I mean, what I
Moderate,
did was
community
moderate
housing,
workforce and
workforce
diverse.
housing, it's all got the same, but we define it, so we can
But it's
define
not, we're
it.
not also gonna just do the middle, because we have people that are overhoused. If we could work with a developer who will build like, you know, 10 capital A affordable units for year-round rental, and then let him charge whatever the hell he wants to sell or rent condos, they might go for it, because we have a lot of older people who are seriously overhoused, and they're going to have a lot of money when they sell these houses, and they don't want to leave Harwich. Their friends are here, their church is here, but they don't want to have to worry about mowing the lawn and the furnace and all that stuff, and they would love nothing more than to be able to stay where they love, you know, without having to worry about anything.
Yeah, and I think that goes to your point of saying, okay, I mean, we create sort of a map, right? Someone who's overhoused, this is where you would go. Someone who, I have a hotel and I want to sell it. Somebody who's like, I've got land and I need to do, we create scenarios, and what you do, that all comes under us.
Exactly.
Of like, and we help, you know, like, we'll go with you, we'll show up with you, we'll whatever, right? But that's still under our charge. So I think I'm getting a sense of where we are. The question I have is around zoning and zoning bylaw. Are we, like, say we, for mine, that I like the idea of like, in Chatham before there was trusts, right? So I'm
Right.
still getting used to being back in this with a trust. So would we still do things like that? Like, we worked with the town staff to create that zoning bylaw that said anything that's over 4 units has to have 1 unit.
So I would say you would
certain-
still make the recommendations to the town planner and,
Okay.
Right,
you know,
right.
and then the planning board
that's.
or the
part
board of
our-
selectmen decide whether they want to go forward with the bylaw change.
So we'll
Exactly.
change
If we
that
saw
to, instead of
something great-
develop and advocate for town policy and bylaws
Mm-hmm.
to expand affordable, we would do recommend, advocate and recommend.
I think so.
Is
I
that
think
comfortable?
sounds good.
Yeah.
Right.
We're not gonna
because-
be developing any projects or anything
You know,
like that.
right, I mean,
Yeah.
but for example, the county, no, I'm working big time at the county right now, trying to focus on housing. And the Cape Cod Commission, when they're done with their massive housing study that they're doing right now, they will have a list. They always come up with a list of really helpful examples of bylaws and things like that. Not, you know, one town fits all. But, you know, if you look at their 208 plan that they came up with for water, that really helped towns figure out how, you know, what are the options, what could they do, how can they meet these, what are the new regulations, all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
And so I think, like, when the commission comes out with that, it would be in our interest to really study their study, see what their study came up with, see which of it applies to Harwich, which
Okay.
we find helpful, what we don't, you know.
Okay.
Um,
How about quantify affordable housing needs in our community? Yes or no?
I just want to take out affordable.
Oh, housing needs, okay. I mean, we did that survey, we talked about, in Chatham, we did it with census once a year, we just threw out a survey. We missed it this year, but we could
Yeah,
Try, okay.
exactly.
So that's okay. Recommend and advocate for town policy and bylaws. Raise community consciousness, engagement, and support. Support the efforts of the Housing Trust. So I would pull Mary's sentence on that. Then the Howard Housing Authority, I'd pull her sentence on that. And then the
Yep.
provide thoughtful review and guidance to other, I'd pull your sentence. Assist the housing advocate, I don't have wording on that, but something about that.
Yep.
And then generate or further housing ideas to present at the appropriate town, staff, board, and committee. So maybe that's more of, generate, like a, what do we call that? Like a list of resources.
An
and-
action plan,
Okay.
maybe.
Yeah, or,
Generate an action plan to further how, because there was something like with art, making sure that we're
Plan
taking ideas and we're furthering them, whether we're coming up with them or somebody else is, we're handing them off somehow,
generate
so.
a plan and identify appropriate partners. Is that the way to put it? Heck,
Yeah, because I had
this committee,
something
that committee,
on,
this developer that we can trust, that, you know what I mean? Cindy, any input from,
Yeah, no, that all sounds good. Definitely, the generate the action plan. Kind of like you guys are the think tank,
right,
and then kind of funneling it all out to help push it further.
right.
okay,
Because I do think that I get asked a lot by people, what's going on with this? What's going on with that? So I don't know if we want that in our mission statement, but I do think we should be aware that we should try to be aware of everything housing related that's going on in Harwich, so that when somebody comes up to me and says, what's going on with this, I can tell them. Because that's really helpful.
Get involved.
No, not get involved, but just be, exactly, but just be able to give them an answer other than, gee, I don't know, good question. If we could be somewhat helpful in just, just saying, this is what I know as of now.
yeah.
That's all people want. They just, it goes with the communication. We just want to try to be as up to date as we can be on what is being, even if
Yeah.
something's being
What's happening, I mean, if we
considered,
get information together, that's something we'd want to put out
Right.
as part of our community engagement and education, so that people know we'd want to do something with the Chronicle on this West Harwich person. So I think for me, it's like this idea, I keep hearing about people who keep kicking out their tenants because they're gonna Airbnb it. And we're losing, it's just happening all the time. So I'm like getting really jaded, but I'm like, wait a second, instead of, I want to kind of put that out there and let people know, if you live here year round and you're doing this is what the consequences are. But rather than do that, because it's pretty negative, is to do stories like this, of this is what this person's doing. And they're finding people who need this. This is what's being done. These are things that you can take advantage of. I have so many friends that are like, if you hear of any project or something, tell me how to sign up. Tell me to get, and I'm like, get in touch with every town's housing authority. Get in touch with every town's, whatever, right? But I don't know. But we could create that for Harwich.
Exactly.
All right. So what I'm going to do, I think I've got a good sense, is I'm going to put it all together.
Awesome.
And then shoot it back out, and we can revisit it next time and maybe
Sounds great.
get it out.
That is
That sounds
fabulous.
great.
All right.
No, I'm pleased with, we've all got good ideas, and it's
Yeah, it's a good team. It's
collating
a good
them.
group.
To get there,
Yeah.
right?
Like-
Because we do not just want to sit around and, anymore. It's too dire.
Well, I guess, once, what's obvious is that we have plenty to do, right?
Yes.
Which is what we've come up
Exactly.
with. So I think there was a sense of what are we going to do, but now it's what are we going to pick? and
Where are we
how
gonna
gonna
start?
prioritize?
Right.
Exactly.
Right, it's gonna be
exactly.
where do we start? Just as an aside, you had mentioned the survey and the census, and yes, we would have missed it for this year. Just as an aside, that's something that we should approach administration on,
Okay.
to see about funds, and approach the town clerk to see if she'd be willing to let us put an enclosure in the census, and then I would say from past experience, putting an additional insert into the census does increase the cost of the census.
Sure.
So we would need some support to get some funds to, if Emily would be okay with us doing that, we would need funds to back up the added costs.
But they
Okay.
just did that, so it'll be next year's.
Yeah.
But,
It's
but
usually
we could
January every year.
also, I mean, I like
Can also do a
Claudia's
survey
idea
online,
about,
too.
exactly, I like Claudia's idea about really setting up a good online presence.
And one of the things you could do is put a hyperlink to a Google survey. And a Google survey, you can feed the answers directly into a spreadsheet.
Yeah,
So
that would be great.
So, once we get that kind of presence established, you could have that hyperlink on the website. That hyperlink, people could go in and answer the survey, and then we can see in real time the changes in the answers that come up.
Yeah, I wonder, because Chatham did the survey when they did the affordable, that whole thing.
Yeah.
If we could get something like that, everyone's emails, and see if the town would do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we
And
have
skip.
emails on kind of the reverse 911 type of phone call. Some people have signed up for emails in news flashes through the website. I just don't know how many that is.
Okay.
There's probably a townwide email that you could direct them back to the webpage where the link could live, so that you could direct them and have them respond.
Okay.
All right.
But
Liz, will you put survey on the agenda, and then we can just revisit and see? So we have the hard copy version versus soft copy kind of options. Okay.
And website and the mission statement.
Yes, please. And are you good with, like, if we do, it's sort of, I'm keeping it in that format of mission objectives kind of thing. And then once it's approved, then we could come back and do like, what's our 2023-24 based on that? Like Mary said, where do we even start? And how do we
Exactly.
prioritize?
I think I'm fine with that. I think ultimately the selectmen have to approve it because we're a committee set up by the
That's what I
selectmen.
mean.
So, yeah.
But
you
if we
know.
put it forward to be
I
like,
think
this
so.
is what we're thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, we just
Right.
keep
I think it
putting it
makes
back
sense,
for
yeah.
approval
Right,
then. Yeah, that's a good point.
when we like it, we'll send it to
Well, and
them
one
and
of the-
say thoughts.
One of the
No,
things,
definitely, but-
one of the things we're required to do under the trust bylaw is have an annual meeting with the trust. I'm not saying it's the only meeting we have.
Right.
It requires an annual meeting with the trust that we discuss with the trust an action plan for the upcoming year for that to be recommended to the Board of Selectmen. So that's something that we tried to do this last year, and we had the meeting, but we didn't have a quorum on our board.
Right.
So we will have to do that again. That'll come up again next year. I think the first one we tried, I don't think you were even appointed yet.
Do you think we want to do that, like in June as the new fiscal
Yeah, I
year
forget.
starts?
To be honest with
or
you, I don't know what the
December.
I don't know what the trust language says for when we're supposed to do it.
No, there's no specific date.
So it's whenever I would say whenever the trust wants to post a joint meeting to do
Can
that.
you put that on the agenda, like annual trust meeting, because it'll come, like if, like you were saying, they're working out sort of what they're doing, we're gonna put what we're doing, put it in front of the selectmen. Once that's done, then that would be a good time to have a meeting and be like, okay, here's what we got.
Right.
Here's what you
Because
got.
they're going to get new members in May.
Okay,
They are?
They have to. Larry Ballantyne retires in May. As soon as
Right,
the
so he
town
can't be- he won't be
election.
the
I'm
selectman.
gonna ask the question again. Are they? I haven't heard word one that they're actually interviewing anybody or whatever.
I don't know. I know, poor Larry Brophy. They've got to replace him, and he's going to be impossible to replace. He's a good guy. And then Larry Ballantyne's
He's not-
retiring, so they're going to have to pick a new select
From the board. So
Select board representative.
That's a wash.
So that's two, and then who's to know if there's gonna be more?
Well,
So-
there's another vacancy.
Maybe. I don't think she's
Can I
decided.
interject
Hi,
for a
Brianna,
second?
yes.
Brianna!
Hi.
How was dinner?
Sorry, I've been good, quietly listening over here. So I do the agenda for the Affordable Housing Trust. So if you'd like, I meet with Joe every Friday. I can talk to him this Friday at our meeting about a timeline that would work well for the joint meeting and then report back to you guys.
That would be
That's
great.
great.
Thank
Thank
you.
Yeah, no problem.
And then, if we can keep you for one more sec, is there anything, if you heard about our plans, you know, the mission statement, all that, is there anything you think we're missing or you think we're incorrect about?
No, I think you guys definitely have come to a good grasp on probably what would work best. However, I do think that maybe you, the committee, and I will work together a lot on projects, like projects that are over the 80% AMI that the trust doesn't have. I
Right.
mean, of course, this is for you guys to decide, but I'm thinking we'll probably end up partnering along with programs, or even if I can bounce ideas off of you guys, since I'm a one-person kind of department. For instance, I'm doing like a home buyer seminar, so I was thinking at your next meeting I could bounce some ideas off of you guys. I think your charge is clear, but I'm just stating, I guess, what I
Right.
hope to partner with you guys to do. Yeah.
Terrific. Yeah, I
that
mean,
was one of the things, sorry, and the wording was like, how do we word that? Because we didn't want to, you know, we definitely want to take your direction, right?
Right.
So maybe, are you comfortable with that? And I'll
Work
include
closely
you on
with you.
the next draft, but like partner with the housing advocate on, you know, projects and ideas. I don't know, however you want that to sound.
Yeah. I can also think about the wording
Great.
tonight and tomorrow, and we can go over that when you send me the draft. That sounds good.
All right. cool,
terrific.
thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Good. So that's a plan.
I think even if we just say partner with her on all housing matters.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
just gonna
Covers
write that
everything.
now.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
oopsie daisy, hold on.
Actually, Mary, I think that sounds good.
What was, say it again?
Just partner with the housing advocate on all housing matters.
Just partner
On
with
all
the housing
matters.
advocate.
Love it.
Period. You know.
Thank you. Perfect. Done.
I don't think she's gonna ask us to partner with her on playing Risk. So, all right, so I think we're good on that agenda item, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so then, the discussion of other bylaws to assist with creating housing, that was just about, you know, some things I sent you, the trust that they're doing in P-Town,
Yeah.
and the law that Julian's trying to get passed at the State House, which would allow towns to do what we call the Veil and Deed program, which is if you volunteer to put a year-round restriction permanently on your home so that you will sell it with a year-round restriction.
Okay, so that leads up to this article.
Yes, exactly, that's that. Because, that's what they came up with, you know, Vail, Colorado has the same problems we do. There's nowhere for them to build. And so they started this thing where, let's say you could sell your house for $1 million.
It makes no difference.
But if you sell it with the restriction that it has to be occupied year-round, you're only gonna get $750,000 for it. They'll pay you the $250,000 difference immediately, even before you sell the house.
Love it.
And the amount of money it costs the town sounds like a lot, but in terms of what it saves them through everything else they're trying to do, and in terms of opening up the year-round stock, it's not the only solution, but it's another really good solution. So Julian has this law in front of the state, and then if it passes, so I just, when we were talking about the mission and like keeping up with ideas and stuff, this is exactly what I was talking about. You know, if you see interesting things like this,
So, number one, I think we should educate ourselves on this and maybe do a little deeper dive in it, get all the, the nuances. And if there's something we feel that we would, approach the Board of Selectmen and advocate that they reach out to our representative in Boston to back this bill.
I have a letter. I have a letter that was created for Simla, which is the new name of the, town, Cape and Islands municipal leaders. And I could whip it up. Here's a copy of it, if you want to scan it, pass it along, but I may have sent this to you, I don't know. Here's another copy of it. And it's just, about sending a letter of support to the
Right.
committee that decides this bill. And all it does is, if Julian's bill passes, it gives the towns the ability to put this into law. So it's just allowing this, under our charters. So,
So we should review it
if we
Do we have a
agree
copy of
on
the, do we have a copy of the bill?
that.
Because I'm certainly not prepared to
I
until I
do
read the bill
not.
and see what it actually says. Because, my concern is, where's the funding coming from? Are they going to tap into community housing funds? Are they gonna tap into, is it a local option statute? Is it, does it require another?
I think, I don't even know if
I
the
have those
bill
copies.
says that, but I will look up the bill, and,
Will you put that on our agenda?
Yeah.
I know I keep throwing that out there, but put,
See, one of the problems we're facing is the second home problem.
yeah, no, I
Right.
If we
understand.
didn't have a second home problem, we wouldn't have a first home problem.
right,
Correct.
The second home, and the people that, don't live here in Cape Cod, they live someplace else, and they come down for,
If we didn't
Right.
have our second homeowners,
we wouldn't
our
have it.
tax base would be a heck of a lot, our taxes would
Way
be a heck of a
higher.
lot higher, so,
Yeah,
you know.
it's not,
we
it's
ca-
not
we can't-
really.
We can't bash the second homeowners
No,
completely.
It's not necessarily
No, but I
second
think we have to-
homeowners, it's the
Because we wanna
people
bend
that,
the curve. We're not gonna do away with the second home owners, okay? They're always gonna be with us, and God bless them, because they pay their taxes and they don't send their kids to school here.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's what we worry about. So, oh my God, one more kid for a school, we can't handle it. But anyway, but it bends
Yeah,
that curve.
that's not what I said, so
Right.
don't
Yeah.
put those words in my mouth.
But-
I've never complained about an extra
right.
child in a school system,
Yeah,
so.
I'm just making fun of it. That kind of bends that curve, because 50% of the people that work on Cape Cod live off Cape Cod.
Right.
And why do they live off Cape Cod? Because they can't afford to be here.
but that's not, second home, the Cape has always had second home owners, and it's always had people that lived in their houses, and then, for the month of August, they'd go visit relatives and rent out their house, and that would pay
Yes,
their
they would.
mortgage. What's really
They would go
nailed
get a
it.
camper down at Nickerson
Yeah,
State Park. and-
Exactly,
It's a
exactly.
big spot.
What really exacerbated the problem is there are a lot of corporations that bought homes purely for the Airbnb
Yeah.
thing. And so there is definitely a way to separate the second homeowners
Right.
from Airbnb people. Because even second homeowners are usually here for 3 weeks total. If you add up what they spend in the summer, and they'll come down for an occasional, weekend in the holidays or something. You look at that now, they're here a lot more than just. I really don't know that many people who are only here
I
for
was here a lot more
2
than that
weeks.
when
Yeah.
I was a second homeowner.
Exactly. Everyone I know that has a second home, you know, I have to keep reminding them that, like, Mark and I live here and we can't just, let's all go to the beach today. Sorry. I mean, I find most second homeowners
COVID,
spend a lot more time here. So all
COVID
we'd have to do
complicated
is,
COVID did.
you know,
Because you've got a
eventually
lot of remote.
we could set a certain amount of days or something. But I just want to tax the hell out of Airbnbs. I just think, you know, I just think that's what's really causing the problem. And right now, we can try to do it with incentives like Valentine and all that. And I think we should give tax breaks to people who do rent their homes, second homes, whatever, year round. But if it doesn't, we're just up the tax on them. You know, because
remember, you can't separate a short-term rental from an Airbnb rental.
you can. I mean, a short-term rental, you call it that as opposed to Airbnb.
Right, a short-term rental is anything less than 30 days in this state, so.
Well,
So if
all
it's
right, no,
if it's 1 week,
we can
if it's
make
2
it in
days,
the
if
town
it's a-
we can make it in the town under 2 weeks. You know, I mean, we can do what we want in a way to set things, but that's way down the road. Let's try to do positive steps to generate year-round housing, not just yelling about Airbnb.
Along the same vein, I have a question, if I might.
Okay.
Okay. This just came across somewhere. The stabilization fund, and Mary, you know more about this than I do. Okay, and this is the short-term, proceeds from the short-term rental tax. And it was, the funds were supposed to be divided, I don't know how, probably equally, between housing and wastewater projects.
I believe that's the case.
Yeah.
How much money has that generated, you know? Has
I have
anyone-
no idea, I don't.
anyone know that?
Well, finance director would, we don't have one at the moment, but you certainly should be able to ask that question
Right.
at town meeting, and somebody should be able to
Exactly.
answer the question.
Okay.
And it's half and half. Did we, you know what I tried to find the other day and I couldn't, did we do 4% or 6%?
I don't, to be honest, I don't remember what it
I
was.
think it's 4.
It did finally go to the 6.
It did go to 6, okay.
Yeah, we started off without,
Year
and then
before
we,
last, I think.
right, and then we went up an extra.
6%.
Okay, that's what I wanted to
So
know.
just-
So, yeah, so that's
What
something,
is it generating? I never hear any discussion about, well, it's.
I don't know.
$2
They-
I don't
or
think it
something.
actually even started until this year. I think there was. when
Yeah,
got
'cause it doesn't
passed,
start right away.
Collection.
short-term rental tax, when it actually got passed, it wasn't until, I believe, 2023 was when it was gonna kick in.
Well, because it wouldn't start until a next January
right,
anyway.
so it's,
Right.
so fiscal year 20, right, so the year that's just concluding, I think, was the first year we're gonna get that money. But,
There's also questions on how it comes in from the state. It doesn't always come in separate from the state. They don't if I recall correctly, they don't necessarily identify it as this is from your short term, this is from your, you know, from your hotel, motel.
yeah, and, they did, when Michael was talking about some fund that the town has for housing that's outside of the Affordable Housing Trust.
they
I
have
tried
a-
to figure out what that was.
No, they get they have cell tower,
The cell
cell
tower,
tower revenue
that's called the
comes in.
trust fund.
That goes, the cell tower revenue goes to the Affordable Housing Trust.
Correct, but I don't believe it is restricted. I don't know that it's restricted to 80%. It might not, whereas CPC funds are restricted to 80%.
Right.
I don't think it is,
might
because
not be.
CPC is restricted to
we
100.
used to have it.
Well, if it's going to the trust, chances are. and
Well,
that's-
if they
that's the feeling.
changed it, but we used to have that money for the committee
here.
to use however we wanted.
Right,
So-
but the trust took it. And then Michael was saying something about there's another fund that has, separate from the trust, there's another fund that has money for housing, which is why we can give all the CPC to the trust, because there's other money set aside for housing. I can't find that. So if anybody,
It's just a trust mark.
if anybody knows about that, let me know. All right, so I think we've discussed, like I said, I just wanted to put other bylaws and all as a reminder to people, like, keep your eyes out for interesting things. It's
Yep.
town meetings time, so I think other towns are going to be coming up with some interesting things we should look at. The next on the agenda was accomplishments since 2016. Did anyone find any? I mean, they did the trust, and so, okay, good, nobody found it. Discussion of additional tools to help housing in Harwich. I feel like we should leave this on the agenda every
Yeah.
meeting, just in case something comes up, we can discuss it without violating
Correct.
laws. So, anybody have any old business or new business that they would like to discuss?
Nope.
Or
Nothing,
anything
I think-
else?
I have one little, this is called like maintenance on our website. Are we all in agreement that we now have an established meeting date, the third Wednesday of each month?
Second.
At 6 p.m.?
It's the second Wednesday.
Yeah, I have a third Wednesday meeting already.
Yeah, I have a third Wednesday.
What is
meeting.
it?
It's the second
Second,
Wednesday.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's the second.
Is that
second
good?
Wednesday each month.
Yep.
So why can't we put that on our website and change the website?
We can. What I was,
And get some, on the sidebars I'm talking about, get some of the other
right.
stuff off there?
Well, Claudia had put in her charge that we were gonna develop a web presence. Our website right now,
It's out of
the
date.
site is very out of date. And I don't know, I mean, I guess we can go in and change a couple of things if we want to, but I was thinking that rather we just wait until we really
Well,
do a major,
We have to request someone to
link.
do it. We can't just,
Well, I think, yeah, if we can get this, like our charge figured out,
Then we can just change
then we
everything.
can like, I'll take a screenshot and we can do the same thing. We'll just be like, cross that out, get rid of that,
Exactly.
do that, and then we can
Exactly.
give those edits to somebody to do.
right. And then,
like our meeting date.
what John Ketchum,
I know, right now I'm
Did.
not worried about it, cause I
Yeah.
have to go, we have to go find that person, do that thing. Right now, we're
Yeah.
just gonna keep posting it
yeah,
on
we
the
don't need to.
agenda and the minutes.
People-
But yes,
People wanna find us, they'll be able to.
unless
look
you
on
wanna
the
tell the
agenda.
town we're the
But-
second Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, if you
We
know
still
who
have
to
to post
talk to.
agendas and minutes.
No,
Right,
I know,
so-
yeah, I know, well, that's why I don't wanna deal with it
Yeah.
right now.
Plenty
Second
of other-
Wednesday of
plenty of
every
other fish to fry.
But if what I'd like to suggest is, when you have time, go look at the CPC website.
What John did. That's
What
good.
John Ketchum did through, you go to the town website and then you click on CPC and you get this gorgeous website. And I think that's something that we should do,
I mean,
because
it looks okay. I mean, it's got a.
but it has no, as Claudia said, we really need a website that keeps all this information there and lets everybody know this, that, and the other thing. And if somebody says, I heard about this thing called Vale Indeed, they can go to our website and say,
have a
oh, look,
hyperlink,
somebody
right.
said
Yeah.
Vale Indeed.
Right.
But that's gonna take a while.
Yeah, but that'll be great to work on.
But it'll be.
After we're done
right,
with this
exactly.
part, yep.
So,
gotta
so
spend
I
some
wouldn't
time.
worry about it until, once we finish the charge and get
Yeah.
really organized, then we'll have a vision to follow, and then we'll know what we wanna do.
There are limited resources
websites.
in town hall to help us with it, with the updates. So let's ask them once and.
Is it? I just met the new IT director.
Did you?
Yeah, I
Nice.
used to
How
work
is
with
she?
her.
Is
She's
she?
awesome. So I know her, so I'm like,
Oh,
hey.
good.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, the thing that I figured is, John Ketchum basically single-handedly created the CPC website.
whatever,
And I happen to be married to a computer geek. So when we decide we want to set up a web page like the CPC did, I can have Mark create it for us. And then, write out a manual so
Yep.
that we'll all know how to change it, update it, whatever, without having to call the poor IT director every day and say, fix this.
Well, I don't think you want everyone to get in there
So-
and change it, one person. So.
Right, but I meant that the committee would have the ability to change it and not have to go through Mark or somebody else. So I'll put the website on next agenda
Yeah.
too.
Okay,
as
cool.
something to do.
What's the second Wednesday?
Good question. Let's make sure it's not, well, no,
Election day.
Ash Wednesday we missed, but, I don't know, Massachusetts has all these weird holidays. May 10th, anybody got anything on May 10th?
I should be okay, May 10th.
Alrighty, our next meeting will be Wednesday,
I might be out of town.
May 10th. You can call in if you
At
want,
6
or you
p.m.?
can blow us off. Wednesday, May 10th
6
at
p.m.?
6 p.m.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna be out in Yosemite, I will be calling in.
Well,
Don't
then-
publicize that in public.
I know, they always taught me that because then you
Nobody needs to know. You're unavailable. That's all
That-
anybody needs to know.
I'm
yeah.
off Cape.
So I'm very pleased, people. I feel like we got a lot done
We
in
did
a
get a lot
very nice
accomplished.
fashion.
We did.
And so agenda, future business. I've got the surveys, ideas for that, hard, soft copies, what we want to do. We've got the website, the mission statement. Brianna will know more about the
The trust
annual
The
trust
annual meeting.
meeting. We'll discuss that bill and
Yep,
whether
that'd
we
be great.
wanna, and I'll get a copy of it to
be
send to you
great.
guys before that. And then I just think, right now, we should have as a standard, agenda item should be communications from Brianna, Paul, Brianna and Paul, which they may not have any,
Yeah, that's fine.
but
Yeah.
if we just leave one
You
in.
put it up at the beginning
Yeah,
too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would expect us to have them from Brianna. I wouldn't expect us to have a lot from Paul.
No, but just to keep it on the agenda in case, like, let's say,
Yep.
all of a sudden something,
Well, what-
emergency zoning requirement.
So what typically
I want
happens-
him to be able to speak to us.
So what
if he
typically
needs
happens
us.
is when applications come before planning or zoning board of appeals, they get circulated to all boards and commissions for comment. So, I mean, I think as long as we're on that circulation list, when something comes up, we're gonna see it. So that would encompass, whether it's a zoning change or do I think we're gonna comment on every ZBA appeal that goes before the board? No, I
No,
don't.
no, but if there's
But,
something Paul wants.
But like when the Royal came up came up before, historic, that was something that would have been circulated to all boards and commissions for
Right.
comments, so.
And
So I don't
speak-
know if we do get those though, do we?
So we can ask to be added to them.
Okay.
Yeah. Speaking of all boards and committees, I'm sure you've done one. Are you on another committee because it's ethics time?
I finished mine. They were due the 7th.
You had,
Yes, they were.
you did one for housing authority,
I did
right?
one for the housing authority.
So, you're good, okay.
Did you do it this, after January 1st for housing? Because you have to do it every 2 years, so it needed to be done this year. So there should be an email, you've got to log into the website and create an account, because it's completely
No,
different.
he did it last year, so isn't
Nope.
it 2 years?
Nope.
No, he has to do it again.
Everybody's gotta do it. All municipal employees have to do it in the off years. So, so there is a hyperlink you can,
This
if,
is the conflict of interest.
Yeah,
yeah.
I did,
but
I
it's
do.
different than there's a whole new portal this year. It's completely different.
Yeah, you have to create
So
a new.
there's a hyperlink that you have to go into. You have to create an account with your email username. You you have to confirm that, you'll get an email back to confirm it, and then you will have to go in and do both the conflict of interest, which takes you about an hour, and then there's another 10-minute acknowledgement of the receipt of the summary of conflict of interest law. So
Yeah.
you probably got
and
it. as a
actually, the
chairperson.
new one is really interesting. I actually learned something that new this year that wasn't in, that I never noticed in the last 5 years
Yep.
I've been doing this, because I have to do it every year for the county.
Yeah, because your county goes in opposite years than your town does.
So, no, but we have to do it every year.
I don't know why, that's strange.
The county has the most arcane rules. We have, our financial forms are harder than what state senators have to fill out. So anyway, I will forward you the link to that.
If you can't find it, let me know, and I'll get the one I got from Emily for.
So we used to do like housing authority updates just so we would know like what was
Yes.
going on in terms of Section 8s and what was left and what kind of help they needed. Is that something we can add?
I will put that on the list.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll put a standing housing authority, after,
just have
after
no
I do,
idea.
like, one will be Brianna and Paul, 2 will be Housing Authority and Affordable Housing Trust on
Yeah.
every,
Okay, cool.
on
Thank
every
you.
makes sense.
agenda.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, because sometimes the Housing Authority does not have meetings every month.
Okay.
It depends on what business we have, sometimes we have, it's the year-end financials, or it's the audit, or whatever, and we have to meet whenever we need to.
Sure.
But if everything's going well, then we sometimes don't need to meet for 2 months, because we're just approving the warrants and making sure nothing's funky and nobody's stealing money. But I will put that. So every agenda, number 1, Brianna and Paul, and number 2, Housing Authority and AHT. Anybody else have anything else to say?
What are we doing to get a 5th member?
I will tell you honestly, I have asked about 20 people and they laugh. So I ask around,
How
if
about the
you,
Friends of the new professionals, or the old professionals, what do they call themselves?
oh, the CCYP, I know, young professionals, but we were talking about that today, that we gotta get them to change the name, because it's not just for young people.
They're aging out.
Aging into seniority.
But, yeah, I'm putting it out there, not that anyone else is gonna watch this, but if you're watching this, then come join the committee. I have asked honestly about 20 people, and I have gotten no response, so I suggest everybody ask anyone they know that they think would be helpful to join. And on that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, you wonderful people.